today. Specifically, you want to be able to capture individual reader level data, ideally at the page view level. So you want to be able to see exactly what they're reading and how they're reading it, on what device, at what time, and so on. We want to do the analytics not only of the audience, but the content, and having those both done on the same data set is very, very compelling, very powerful. Benchmarks are always very useful, specifically for certain KPIs we found that are very important to monitor. And then understanding, being able to share that data around your organization in some sort of visual format is usually very helpful. We use Tableau, and we've bundled that into the solution as well. And so we provide essentially all of these things together, or whatever portions of these services that you would perhaps need for your organization, we can provide them. And we've bundled these all together for a low fee. But by the way, most of our clients, we tend to be a little different than most firms in the sense that we're on typically a monthly retainer. So this is kind of what our value proposition is. It's this holistic solution. We bundle a lot of complex things into one solution for you, and we are here for you as an extension of your team. Okay, so I'm going to give a quick overview of Listener. Arvid, you may jump in here too. We have a slide here that's going to build. So we look at Listener is really a pixel, and the idea is that we are trying to capture the right data for analytics. So we want to look at what readers are doing on your site, but also perhaps in your mobile apps, perhaps on other places where your content is being consumed, even in social media, perhaps. We look at the content itself and the user. So that's the level of detail that we get. We want to understand what we can capture their user ID or their authentication. We can understand if we can power the access to different content. We can give recommendations to your paywall providers as to whether or not they should have access. We can capture emails. We can look at payment activity. We capture data from email systems. We look at your subscription management, so your search systems, what their account information is. We can combine it with newsletter and opt-in, what they've elected to do from you. And then we can also look at the authorization database. So we have a listener pixel that we use to capture the online activity, the events on the page. We capture those. We bring that together with the kind of the offline subscriber data that I mentioned. You can see that the timeline on these is a continual online feed from the online sources, and then a daily update of the user data. We have the internal consultants and data scientists that derive insights from these data, and then we produce analytics or recommended actions, and those get pushed out into the systems that are acting with your client relationships. So Arvid, I'll perhaps let you augment what I just said there. I'm sure he does it more eloquently than I do, but
I'm actually quite impressed. So this is great. I think there's 2 more clicks on this page just to fill it in completely. But as Matt said, kind of that iteration happens in real time. Really, what this diagram is trying to show is, at a high level, there's sort of a data input. So listeners kind of gathering the data on the left-hand side, both online and offline. And then kind of our team really crunches that data and makes it actionable. And then we facilitate the implementation on the right-hand side of this diagram. And that's done through 2 primary integration points. One is what we call a segment, and that's really, we connect that in real time to your kind of online systems, whether that's the paywall, a registration wall, even an ad server, anything that's really online. And then there's kind of an offline integration, usually through a batch or an API process, where we would perhaps send daily a list of email addresses with some kind of action. So that's kind of that bottom batch user list. And again, I think we really try to make it actionable. So a lot of the kind of stars that we've labeled here indicate the most common systems that we work with. And again, our team helps facilitate the A/B testing and kind of ongoing reporting. So it's really continuous relationship. And as Matt said earlier, it's really a retainer kind of model where we're every month or every week, we're doing something to kind of help test and make sure you're seeing the growth in subscribers, or perhaps improvements in retention, or other related tactics in the customer lifecycle.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and I guess the last thing I would add on this page is that what perhaps makes us different than alternative solutions, which may be software of some sort, is it's really the professional services in the middle there, the consultants and data scientists. We really are here to facilitate or help you on an ongoing basis with decisions on how to optimize your operation. I think that's the other thing we find is that these processes almost continually need improvement and optimization and testing, and that's really what we're here to do. So we have the capabilities enabled by the technology to implement, but we also have the people that can help you with it. So the slide that we have here is this is really, you can see we offer Listener to a number of clients already today. We have quite a number of them. And what we've done in this solution is to really provide what we call a skinny light version, whatever you'd like to say, but it's really intended to provide perhaps publishers that maybe want to, before they jump in with both feet, they want to get some of the benefits of Listener. We've really done a lot of investment on our side to make it as scalable as we can, and so we're able to offer this solution today, which is the left column here. So you can see that there's a lot of things that are in the bundle. We haven't taken much out. We still provide the dashboards. We may not provide the customization if that's available if you'd like it. You can see the kind of the Listener, the first offering here as also includes a lot of the data work that we do to bring all the right data together. You can see we store it for 13 months in this offering, so you can do year-over-year comparisons at a monthly level. You can see we integrate to different technologies that Arvid mentioned as data sources, but then also tertiary systems, fulfillment integration systems that we're talking about, like your Paywall or your email platform. We have levels of professional services, and then we also do our services that we are known for, which is market-based pricing, which is our renewal pricing optimization service, our customer lifetime value, and then our churn or retention campaigns. So this is these are the kind of two flavors of Listener.
I'd probably just add the primary kind of 3 or 4 differences, as Matt said. It's really the support hours. That's kind of the level of effort or degree of effort we put in, and kind of the gaps that we fill within the organization. Your organization, that's kind of one big difference. The different product, apps, the edition, that's one difference. The premium content kind of flag or recommendation engine, and just really the customization, as Matt said. That's kind of the 4 distinguishing points of the light versus the full service. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No, thanks. Yeah, very helpful. All right, my last slide before Arvid gets into some really cool case studies is on this really recent announcement we had with the Medill Journalism School. We are very excited to be supporting their subscriber engagement index with our data feeds. We receive, as I mentioned earlier, data from hundreds of newspapers in the United States and Canada, and really many other places as well. We are providing the 2 types of data that we described earlier, kind of the offline subscriber data with the online activity. We're providing that to Medill. They're going to be doing some really very impressive kind of academic research. They've also built a very useful set of tools online that publishers can use. There's a portal, and you can change some of the parameters around your data, and it does some very kind of helpful what-if scenario modeling around customer lifetime value engagement. The plan is for them to do some really neat academic research around the types of content that really move the needle when it comes to engagement and subscriptions. So if you are a part of our this Listener offering and you're just a client in general, we can certainly include you in the Medill Subscriber Engagement Index for no additional cost. And also, please reach out to me if you'd like to participate in this. This is a thing we're very excited about, regardless of how you ultimately work with us on the Listener side. All right, with that, I will turn it over to Arvid, and he will kind of go through a few case studies.
Sure. So actually, if I can go ahead and take the screen, Matt, if that makes it easier.
Yep, that'd be fine.
Okay, can you see the same screen, hopefully? Yeah, so as Matt said, we really take a holistic view. So, we try to impact the entire sort of life cycle of a customer or a subscriber. That includes, kind of top of funnel tactics. So things like nurturing the reader, kind of getting them back to the site. A part of the kind of back end work we do is really segmenting the audience into kind of who are the flybys, who are the repeat users, who are high propensity. So based on that, we can kind of really cater the right sort of personalization for each audience segment. On the acquisition, that's where we usually target the high propensity to subscribe segments. And we'll do a lot of A/B testing to really validate or measure the impact of our hypotheses. So if we say move a meter from 5 articles to 2 articles on this audience segment, we'll actually A/B test that and make sure that there's the lifts. And that's part of the ongoing, again, services that we provide. Once you kind of get them in the door, retention and kind of churn management becomes a big focus area. So, and I'll share some case studies on that in a second. And then as you kind of evolve the subscription model, a lot of the questions we tend to get are, how do you sort of, grow the value over time, whether it's through pricing action, whether it's offering additional product tiers or ways to kind of upgrade the subscription. So that's, a lot of work we do is kind of advising our clients around, is there room for an ad-free product tier at a higher price? If you do create a higher tier, are there other features you want to put in there? Maybe the opposite way, is there room for a basic digital? And is there, what does that kind of impact on volume and rate and so on? So yeah, that's kind of the breadth of our focus area. Without maybe getting to the actual case studies. So this was a test we did where our hypothesis was if we were to move a article meter from 5 articles per month down to 3 articles per month for this sort of high and medium propensity segment, our theory was you'd get a ton of volume and you'd really not risk any ad revenue. So we kind of proved that. So essentially here, the conversion rate remained about the same, and you can see about a 30% or a 26% lift in conversion volume versus the control group. So we've done this test now, I think, countless times in 2020 and 2019. So I think this is sort of there's not really any more, I guess, question at this point in terms of does this work, and it works pretty well. So just a quick way to boost your conversion volume right out of the gate. The other test here is personalization. So this is, again, once you kind of have the paywall working and you kind of have your meter testing out of the way, we like to go into using the content preferences of different readers to change up the messaging or the calls to action. So this is one where on the right side, you can see we really just change a small part of that call to action, targeting people who are interested in kind of local crime stories. And we just emphasize that in the call to action, versus a more general local news kind of call to action on the left. So when we targeted this to a kind of crime preference segment of audience, we saw about a 0.08 lift in conversion rate, which is about a 30% lift in the actual conversion rate itself. So again, personalization can work, and we usually like to focus on the biggest volume segments first, just because that's where you really see the, it's kind of a fish where the fish are, so to speak. So that's kind of 2 examples. We do a lot of other things on the paywall. Just to summarize it all, we call essentially the personalization across the meter, the call to action, the kind of product you offer, the price you offer, all that combined we call the intelligent paywall. And when we implemented this for one of our clients last year, we were able to kind of decompose some of the different bumps or trends in the kind of revenue growth and subscription growth. So you can see on the left-hand side, this is kind of the total net active subscribers. You can see there's kind of a trend line pre-COVID in green there. We can see the COVID bump that most publishers experienced, where there was a spike in subscriptions. We launched the intelligent paywall shortly after that, so you can see that bump. And then this was for a client in California, so they had some kind of bump due to the California wildfires and those kind of stories. So when you kind of decompose these different major activities that happened, you can kind of see, it's pretty big impact in terms of scale. It's about $100,000 in just incremental revenue that was generated over the first 12 months that we're projecting. and about a 5% lift in just the active net subscribers just from that implementing that model pretty quickly. So it's a pretty, again, it's a pretty quick way to kind of see the ROI on these activities and again, grow your subscriptions. So that's kind of the acquisition side. On the retention side, this is a test from one of our South American clients that was just the reason I like to share this one is it's very simplistic. And that's part of why I think the product, the service level we're offering here is really sort of suited for that kind of, get the basics right and then evolve from there. But in this case, they really, El Espectador, they sent 2 email kind of campaigns to a test group of subscribers who are disengaging week over week. So really the way that we approached this was find the people who are at high risk of stopping. Again, we use just basic digital behavior data to find those high risk subscribers. And the publisher here did a very simple, here's what you missed, why are you missing, why are you on the site? Very kind of not too serious, but very to the point. And it was a pretty successful campaign where it reduced the churn rate from this high risk group. I think it was about 32% churn rate month per month, very high churn rate, down to about 23%. So again, it's a pretty big decrease in the churn from that segment. And I think they're kind of evolving a bit more beyond this today. So it's again, simplicity works and just being very targeted works as well. On the pricing side, I'll share one quick case study. This was a test. We hear a lot of feedback and just I think caution from publishers on pricing their digital only subscribers, and I think it depends certainly on the maturity of your subscription and how long that the subscribers have been around. But what we find is you can actually be pretty aggressive over time, especially if you again target the readers who are low risk of stopping. The 2 or 3 big factors are going to be the tenure of the subscriber. So how many months or years have they been an active subscriber, their level of engagement, and perhaps some other demographic and usage data. So if you kind of target it correctly, you can get a pretty big ROI on just raising the price, again, if you do it selectively. So again, just a way to kind of grow the yield over time from your more loyal base of subscribers. This is one where, again, I think there's kind of two takeaways here. One is, premium content works. I know one area that's kind of not included in this service is that premium content flag, but we still are able to really measure and just make some recommendations broadly on what kind of content should or should not be premium, and also just help A/B test that. So really, the algorithm we've built actually predicts what should be premium content. We're kind of keeping that in kind of the higher level service for now. But either way, we can do these kind of tests where we create a hypothesis, we set certain content to be premium or not premium, and we observe the lift in starts and impact on retention. The 2 takeaways here are premium content does lift, cause a lift in subscriber starts. So that's kind of been proven. In this case, the 12% came from putting about 5% of content behind the wall, the most kind of critical content that was really impactful. The other learning here was that you can see that kind of dark blue line at the bottom there. People who converted off of that premium content had a pretty kind of significant difference in their churn or their retention as well. So part of what this all kind of comes together is you really want to make sure that your content strategy is in sync with your customer lifecycle strategy. So if you do have premium content, if you have a meter, if you have email campaigns, the way that a customer converts actually should impact how they're onboarded and how they're kind of treated after the fact. So again, it's about kind of using the entire sort of collection of data and insights to manage both content acquisition and retention, and do that in kind of a singular strategy. One more on content I'll share here. So this was a recommendation we made for one of our publishers on really optimizing the content mix, where we recommended that essentially they reduce publication or reduce writing stories in certain sections of content. Broadly, in this case, it was international and economy. They were kind of oversupplied. We saw that based on the behavior of the audience, and the supply of articles that were being produced. We saw that there was kind of a mismatch, so we kind of said reduce there. Conversely, in 3 sections, politics, local news, and national news, we saw the opposite. So there's a high demand for that content, but perhaps an undersupply of stories. So we kind of said let's kind of rebalance that newsroom production and kind of shift resources around a little bit. The result was essentially 1,000 fewer articles are being pushed out every month. Some of that was locally produced journalism, some of that was AP or kind of syndicated content. But the net result is 1,000 fewer articles overall. And we saw kind of a pretty significant bump in page views and conversions. So altogether, if you kind of count up the incremental page views, the incremental subscribers, it's about a 30,000 a month bump in kind of the total revenue. So it's a pretty exciting case study, and we're doing a lot of this more and more lately. So I know I kind of went pretty quickly through those case studies. Again, we'll have questions here in a second, but just to kind of restate, really we offer kind of the full suite of scope here. We have the consultants and teams who really have done this, for a very long time. They kind of know the moves, so to speak. We're all obviously data driven, so we look at the entire kind of data coming in to make our recommendations. We also have benchmarks, which are pretty important, so they help us really understand where are you overperforming, underperforming, and those benchmarks help us kind of prioritize where we see the biggest opportunities. So if you already have a meter of, 1 article and you have premium content, maybe that's not where we start. Maybe it's more on the retention side. If you already are doing everything perfectly on, if your churn rate is 1% per month, your acquisition rate is, you're converting 1% of your audience every month, hey, great. Maybe there's some help on the content side. So again, I think it kind of depends on where you are in terms of that benchmarking. And as we kind of start off this meeting here, really we help operationalize these things. So Listener really facilitates that, implementation of all these recommendations and services, and does it at a very low cost. So you can kind of see the benefit every month or every week as we test these different theories and tactics, and hopefully there's a lift in your starts and reduction in your churn. So I will pass it back to Matt, I think, to close out the session here, and we'll take questions. And you're on mute.
Thanks, Arvid. So yeah, just to kind of share what the platform cost is. So you can see this particular bundle of services that we combine: the consulting services, the data gathering through Listener, the activation of the strategies through your fulfillment systems, and then visualization through Tableau. That's all part of this one fee. There is some variable cost depending on the size of your site. If you've got a very large site, there may be some incremental costs due for just data capture, but really everything else is about the same. So we like to just put this in context. It's really what we're trying to do is bring really powerful subscription data analytics to operations that may have not been able to make the investment in some of the other tools that are out there. We realize that all these things are pretty expensive, and we're very, very happy to offer them to our clients at a lower price point. Just on our last webinar that we had 2 clients who gave very compelling kind of case study references for us. Shannon Bowen at McClatchy, she spoke about some of the use cases that we're working on with them. And then Curtis Huber at the Seattle Times, we've been working with him for many years, and then we've really been with them throughout their evolution as a very successful digital subscription publication. So we do have these, I believe, on recording, and we'd be more than happy to provide references to them if you'd like to speak to somebody that's been down this path. So now we'd love to have any questions, anybody now, or you're more than welcome to email us at these. You can see it's just our first names, Matt at mathoreconomics.com, and Arvid. And but we do have some time if anybody would like to ask anything in particular. I'm sure if you ask it, other people are wondering the same thing. So please don't hesitate.
It's always the part where you're trying to vamp until someone asks a question, or hopefully some preset questions.
So I'll ask a question. This is Mike Seibert with the Union Bulletin, Seattle Times affiliate. We're in the process of installing MG2 Subscribe and Engage on our news cycle system, and I'm curious about how those integrate.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll take that one. So there's to get a bit technical, there's two integration points. There's the well, maybe three. So there's the kind of, let's call it the meter. I think they call it, like I said, engage, the kind of the thing that sets up all the conversations and kind of personalizations. So really what we do is there's a snippet of JavaScript code that we add to our standard listener JavaScript, and that essentially connects the dots on the tracking of all those conversations. So oftentimes we have clients, many clients of ours who will use our reports to essentially report on the connects or engage conversations and A/B tests that they're running, just because it's a bit easier to see all the breakdowns and count unique users and segments and all those things. The other integration point is with the checkout process. So that's, again, a couple lines of JavaScript code that we just add, and that's got a standard switch to enable the checkout process. So if you're also using that, the actual payment checkout thing as well, then we integrate there as well. I guess the third one is kind of the pushing segments back into Engage. So that's just accomplished through our standard integration with those first two sets of JavaScript. So again, essentially there's 2 points of data capture: the pop-ups that Engage does, the checkout process that they do, and then there's a point of integration back with the segments into Engage. And when you go into that kind of admin screen in Engage, you can actually create a conversation that says set meter of, I don't know, 2 for Mather segment hyperpensity or whatever it is. So that's kind of how you see the integration just as an administrator. Hope that's not too much detail.
Nope. Thank you.
Arvid, I know we've had some interesting, on the margin, I'll ask a question that I always think is interesting. On the margin, where do you think the biggest return on analytics is that we find with our clients?
Yeah, it's a good question. It probably depends on just the, where we see that benchmarking data come back. So let's say if you're, just to throw some numbers out, if your conversion rate, let's say it's below like 0.2%. So let's say the people who hit the paywall and then convert, that ratio is below 0.2. Usually for us, that's a big area of opportunity. The other kind of metric we look at is if if the percentage of people who are coming to your site and what of those people who hit the paywall, if that's less than 8% or maybe 5%, that's a huge opportunity. If we can get that up to like maybe 15%, that's a whole lot of volume we can get on starts. So I'd say that's probably where I'd start looking at and just seeing the return. And then again, if you have a bit more volume in active digital subscribers and your churn rate is somewhere less than 3 or 2%, or sorry, greater than 2 or 3%, then there's probably a whole lot of upside on just staying subscribers. So I hate to give a it depends answer, but again, it kind of just depends where are you off on the benchmark, I guess.
That's what economists are supposed to say, right? Depends.
Yeah. Actually, premium content is one. I think that's probably underutilized. I'll just say, well, premium content and registration walls, I think, are underutilized in the US, especially. I think more and more publishers are experimenting with premium content, but I think it's still a very small percentage of the total. So I think people are testing like a handful of articles a day, or maybe 5-10%. I think in Europe, we're seeing it as much as 40 or 50% of content's premium. So I think that's a whole lot of volume there that we can generate. And then registration walls, I think, are kind of becoming more popular. The New York Times sort of implemented a registration wall, I think, late 2019. So then I think most people followed suit in 2020. And that's just a great way to build that kind of top of the funnel or mid funnel, building those loyal readers, getting an email address. So I'd say in terms of just broad strategic opportunity, I think those two are where I think there's a lot of, again, opportunity. Tactically, I think, the paywall insurance stuff, we know how to do that, but strategically, I think we advise a lot of our clients, how do you really set up that registration wall? How do you decide what content is premium? A lot of really good questions there coming up.
Great. I'll also ask a question that we get frequently, which is, how do we compare to, say, a CDP type of a tool set? And so we do have clients, I'll just mention, we're really tech stack, friendly in a sense that we can really push the recommendations and capture data from a number of different applications. We have clients with, most of the paywall systems. We do a lot with Zephyr these days. There's others that we work with quite a bit. MG2's another one. Most CDPs are really engineered to do things on site really quickly. So the way that they're architected is they capture data and then they enable action to be taken. So they don't store a lot of historical data. We really provide this kind of 13 months of historical data where we could do very detailed, rigorous analysis and then use that to not only look at kind of the audience, but really do some really cool things around content, product, and analytics as well. Looks like we may have a question, actually. Somebody raising their hand.
Yeah, this is Dave Gould. And thanks for the presentation, guys. It was good. Our company is about to launch within a few weeks a new suite of digital products. It's going to be a subscription-based deal. So it's a website. It's a 5-day-a-week e-edition, and some e-newsletters as well. We're using, so Piano is going to be our paywall/analytics vendor. And that's when we've got some other tech companies as well we're working with. At what point in the process, if we were going to engage with you all, at what point in the process does it make the most sense? Would you recommend we do it early on? Would you recommend that we first generate some data to see what's happening and then engage with you, or what do you suggest there?
Go ahead, Arvid.
I was going to say, probably maybe 2 stages. One, pre-launch, we do a lot of work just on kind of advising on, here's kind of the checklist almost, pre-launch, or just things to think about. So it's perhaps some just basics that we do like that, and then maybe after launch or with launch, that's perhaps when you can turn on the listener and all the kind of features there. So I'd probably say just a 2-stage approach is what I'd recommend. In terms of Piano, we have that same integration I mentioned with Navigo. So again, add some JavaScript, and it's kind of out of the box. We collect all the events coming in from Piano, like the paywall popping up or people converting, and you can go into Composer, and in there you can actually say, create meter 1, 2, 3 for Mather segment, low propensity, or whatever it is. So same approach.
I would just offer too, we can also kind of advise you as to what tactics when people launch products, we find that you capture a lot of what we call low-hanging fruit pretty quickly with subscriptions. So you don't necessarily want to throw your best prices out there. You want to basically give people the people that want to subscribe, you want to give them every opportunity to do that. And then once that tends to taper off, that usually takes a few months. That's when we recommend there's a sequence of kind of tactics that we find. The first thing is to perhaps start reducing the amount of free content, so to really give more people the opportunity to hit the paywall. The other is to start to offer some different types of subscription plans or offerings. Again, just kind of the natural progression of a digital subscription product.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Again, it's a relatively small group. If anybody has any questions they'd like to answer, we're more than happy to share this presentation with this group afterwards. And I know we are always available too via email, as I mentioned earlier. So again, happy to follow up with anyone afterwards on a one-to-one basis if you'd like to do that. All right, Arvid, anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think again, just echo what you said, Matt. Reach out anytime, and yeah, glad to help in any way we can.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. I'll just close this out then. Thanks for joining us. We'll give you a few minutes back in your day. I'm sure you guys will have plenty to do. So always a pleasure to get the group together, and thank you again for joining us. We will hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.